Now, the G20 Summit, it's underway in India's capital, New Delhi. All eyes on the top leaders of the biggest economies of the world and the discussions that are likely to take place over the course of the 2 days. Now, the G20 Summit, it's taking place amid heightened geopolitical tensions, which have had a major impact on the global economy. So let's dive into the top 5 economic agenda to watch out for at this year's G20 Summit.
The stage is set for the G20 Summit in New Delhi. The global economy is facing unprecedented turmoil. Inflation is soaring across the world due to rising food and energy costs. China is slowing down. Several European economies are in recession, and the United States is barely able to skirt recession. In such a situation, the global economy is all set to be the top focus when the leaders of the group of 20 most industrialized nations meet. The economic discussions are likely to revolve around the following 5 issues. Ballooning global debt as a matter of concern, not just for the G20, but for at least 70 developing nations. Supply chain disruptions, a fallout of the Ukraine conflict, and COVID-19 lockdowns have forced the world to rethink China's position as the world's factory. Trade fragmentation threatens to disrupt global trading as countries may end up getting divided into smaller, disconnected blocs. Reforming the 8-decade-old multinational development institutions like the World Bank and the IMF to reflect the 21st century realities will be a huge agenda, especially for the US and India. And last but not the least, with climate change set to have a long-term socio-economic impact on the world, climate action will be on everyone's minds. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Now, for more insights on this, we're being joined by our correspondent Adya Juneja. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, what can we expect in this year's summit when it comes to the global economy and trade?
Well, we expect India to play a leading role as the voice of the Global South. And India is already pushing for the inclusion of the African Union in the G20. Indeed, if we go by reports, that looks like a certainty. There will be an emphasis on ensuring a rules-based and transparent global trading system. That is to discourage disruption in supply chains and fragmentation of countries into smaller blocs. We can also expect India and the US to push for major reforms of the World Bank and other multilateral institutions. That has been a major demand of the Global South for many decades now. A global framework is possible at this year's summit, which will help poorer countries renegotiate their debts. That will be a big relief for many of these countries as they are already on the brink of bankruptcy.
Also, what are the top challenges that the G20 faces in this regard?
The G20 grouping may find it difficult to come to a consensus on almost all issues, and that's because of 2 countries, Russia and China. They are at loggerheads with the West, and many of the economic discussions that will take place starting today, running into the weekend, will have a direct impact on those 2 countries. There is a strong possibility that the G20 declaration may end up being watered down. Still, the G20 gives a strong platform for Global South voices and helps increase world cooperation.
All right, Adya, thank you so much for getting us all the updates on that. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now. Get all the news on the move.